Are we on?
No, and you're too bright. It's like you've got a flashlight in your face.
Well, I have, haven't I? But, okay, we'll do that.
Sorry, it's live now.
Yeah, you can.
It's
you
live.
can
It's live. It's live.
But what you do, then you just go like that, hold it, and press it there. When you've got that thing.
Okay.
Then press the yellow thing. And then it should sort it out. And if it doesn't, let me know. Try that now. Hold it on there. Hold your finger on there. That's it. Got it? Any better?
It looks like you're in a flashlight.
Yeah, well,
like
try it again then, because that's not right then.
It looks,
Yeah, try that again, try the yellow. Just hold it on there to get the yellow.
that's better.
That's it.
No, now it's gone again.
Right, but then it's not autofocusing, and then it's not focusing. Just do the yellow thing. Sorry about this, ladies and gents, but this is teething problems to get there. Any better? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll try it out. These are teething problems, and it doesn't matter if it's live.
You've got an
You go up
audience
there.
already.
I know.
You've got an
Never mind.
audience
We're just sorting out the light, yeah, because we've been noticing problems with the light. That doesn't look like you got a flash on you. Yeah, that'll be all right. That's fine, Addy. That's set now. It's set now. It's on now.
I'm a bit taller. Will
It's
it?
set now. That's fine. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? How are you, my friend? Well, what are we going to talk about?
Free Palestine.
Yeah, well, I heard that all day yesterday.
Yes.
One of the things about the demonstration is
Yes.
not many slogans and repetitive. Understandable, they got an issue they're dealing with, but repetitive. Typical of the left wing.
Yes.
Who, of course, led these protests and marched them down the street and listened to a few speakers and then chant the same slogans again and again. And I must say, it's alienating. It's alienating. You go on a demonstration and you got like a few activists chanting slogans, and they repeated all the way through the demonstration. And I didn't hear, I literally, there were about 6 or 7. That was about it. Always the same. The beauty about Speaker's Corner, you see, come here today, everyone's arguing, debating, and the police have turned up now. I said, what are you here for? They said, well, in case there's any trouble. And then I looked at the police officers' faces. They're not familiar with Speaker's Corner. So for them, everyone could be an enemy. You know, there's some Christian there with an Israeli flag. There are a couple of Palestinians and one of the regular speakers chanting Free Palestine. And they can't tell what they think is dangerous or not dangerous. They have the police mindset. These people are talking about the issue. And someone says, you know, I looked at the Metropolitan Police warning about yesterday, and it was from the river to the sea, might be tolerated on the demonstration, but in some other circumstances it would not be tolerated. For example, outside the Israeli embassy and this type of thing. I think what you need is more of this Speaker's Corner, because you need to have the interaction between people, Jewish people, the mass of the British population, and Muslim people, who are the main people out on the demonstration, to alleviate this conflict and tension that's developing within society in Britain. For example, when I posted this video from yesterday, I noticed a lot of people commenting, you know, invading our country, look at the state of our country, loads of people have come into this place, it's not my land anymore, this type of stuff. Lots of people coming out with this, which of course, after many years of the whole Brexit crisis, the whole discussion about the whole pandemic nonsense, the locking off of people from one area to another in the world, the psychological trauma caused by the whole lockdown hysteria. It's natural that people are going to come out with this type of nonsense. You know, they start turning one against another. You know, even some of the anti-lockdown people, they jumped onto the issue of migrants coming here, migrant boats. They jumped onto the Nigel Farage type angle and so on. Understandable that people are concerned about their conditions. And that's not a white phenomenon. You could go to Nigeria and the same problem would emerge. You could go to Jamaica and there would be concern about people from Barbados. Or you could go to Guatemala and there would be concern about the Venezuelans or Colombia. It is a universal phenomenon that within the nation states, the economic and social conditions of people lead them, when confronted by people coming and taking their resources, they think they're being deprived of something.
I think we've got emotions being used.
Well, that's great.
I mean,
That's right. You see, when there's a strong economic growth, when I was a kid, there was 1960s, there was strong economic growth. At that time, it was still acceptable on television to come out with racist comments and so on that we would now consider to be inappropriate. But there was nevertheless a gradual relaxation of the tensions between people. Whereas now, with this unstable social, economic and psychological situation of the masses, you've got a constant increasing antagonism between the people. Because, you know, they say about Israel and Palestine and Gaza is the big issue of the day, of course. And I was speaking to one of the most vocal advocates of Israel's cause, Joseph Cohen, a little earlier on. And he insisted on slandering me and saying, you are left-wing and you are a supporter of Hamas. Because I don't agree with Israel's treatment of the Palestinians, I must be a supporter of Hamas. That seemed to be the angle he was taking. He's never discussed this with me before. Then I turned around to him and I said, given this was the most strongly protected border in the world, with the most sophisticated technology in the world, how come Hamas breaks through? He said, well, they had their crack units of paragliders. A crack unit in Israel is a helicopter gunship. A crack unit of Hamas is a paraglider. I said, and a pickup truck, not a tank. So then I asked him again, how come this border was broken through? I said, in my view, there are two possibilities. One is that some insiders facilitated this.
Sure.
And then he goes, who? Oh, now you're coming out with the tropes about the Jews. He goes, now you're saying the Jews did this.
Yes.
I said, I didn't mention the Jews. I said, some people might have done this. I don't know who. That's one possibility. And then he came back and he said, no, Hamas have been preparing this for a year. They trained in secret. They plotted in secret. They were very careful. They pretended to only be interested in economic development. And then all of a sudden, out of the secret plot that they made, they suddenly launched an offensive during a Jewish holiday. I said, well, that's one possibility. I said, I don't know if that's true or not. He wanted me to say, definitely. He said, tinfoil hat you've got. I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Yes.
Well, I said, well, the alternative, as far as I can see, is that the IDF, the Israeli state, the security services, and all their equipment, technology, weaponry, all their knowledge of political and economic and social events and military events in every corner of the world, by the way, Israeli intelligence has been operating. In every corner of the world, and yet, despite that, they were so incompetent that the greatest physical barrier ever created to prevent people from going to A to B completely collapsed. Because that is a possibility. It is a possibility. But then the question comes, if the Israeli state was so utterly incompetent with the most advanced technology, the most advanced security services, much of the most advanced weaponry in the world, and they didn't know that these people were going to come across in their attack unit on a paraglider and with a bulldozer, then how can you have trust in the... Turn it off. How can you have trust that the Israeli army is going to do a good job with 300,000 called up reservists to march in to conquer Gaza from the Palestinians? How do we know that's going to be good? If they couldn't do what they're supposed to do properly, protect the people on their border, on the border to Gaza, well then how can we expect them to do a good job in dealing with the people in Gaza now when they go, and in mistreating the Jewish people who are reservists going to fight this war? And by the way, and then I said to him, look, I said to Joseph, I said, well, you accuse me of supporting Hamas, which I've never done. Would you condemn Hamas? I said, I condemn Hamas. He goes, I don't believe you. And then I said to him,
Nobody believes you.
who are you? And then I said to him, is it true? Because I've heard this from various sources on the internet. I heard that Netanyahu and the Israeli state were financing and supporting Hamas.
Yes, they were.
Were financing and supporting Hamas against the PLO
They were their friends, yes.
to make allies with Hamas as a counterweight to the PLO.
Yes.
I said, I've heard this. And I said, is it true? And he said, you're trying to say that Israel organized this against Israel. I didn't say anything of the sort. I said, is it true that that was the past record? And if that's the past record, how can you trust the present record of what they're doing? How can we know they're not lying through their teeth about what's taking place? Both to the Jewish people, to the Israeli people, to the Arab people, and to the world. How can we know? Only a couple of months ago, there were protests in Tel Aviv of Israelis carrying Israeli flags and saying Netanyahu's government is becoming a fascist government. That's what the Israelis were saying en masse only a few months ago. So, given those facts, we have to wonder what sort of forces are behind this. They abolished the judicial system, the structured judicial system in Israel. That's what the Israelis were protesting about. The Jewish Israelis protesting against their own government. So of course, why do the idea that I support Hamas is ridiculous. The Palestinian people, to break the power of the Israeli state, if they want to break that power and break through into the minds of the Jewish people, they need to be able to reach out to those people in Israel who were protesting against the Israeli state only a few months ago. And those people in Israel who are opposed to the war, and I saw some of them on the demonstration yesterday. Jews for peace, Jews against this Jew is opposed to that, this Jew doesn't support that, not in my name, Jewish Voice for Labour, Jewish Socialists, and so on. I saw them. There weren't many, but there were enough to make a difference. Because the Jewish people in Israel have a long history. I was talking to one of my friends here earlier on, East End Jew. He was saying he went out to kibbutz in the 1960s. They believed they were serving and trying to create a new type of world, a better world, which of course could appeal to people from all different nationalities. In fact, people from England and all around the world went to kibbutz in the 1960s and 70s, believing this was a new way of living. So there were many people who believed in those things. But the idea that you're somehow a superior race to the others, a superior religion to the others, this is the guarantee for poison in the whole of the region, and to grab the land of the others. There are people, he was telling me, the ordinary Israelis, they wanted to live in the cities. Whereas the influx of foreigners coming in, again, he'd come back to the same question, the foreigners coming in, who are the foreigners coming? The foreigners coming in are American Jews, Russian Jews, Ukrainian Jews, East European Jews, invited in and given large amounts of money to move in into the settlers and occupied territory from the Palestinian people and drive them out. That's what's been happening. It's not concealed. It's what's been happening. Ask any Israeli who's in these areas. That's what their experience is. That's what they do. They know that. They feel justified, they feel okay, because their society is supposed to be more liberal, more open, more democratic, amongst their own, but not amongst the others. Now, wasn't that the case? I remember speaking here when apartheid existed in South Africa. We used to stand up and speak about that, and there'd always be someone from South Africa, a white guy, would turn around and say, have you ever been to South Africa? I said, I don't need to go to South Africa to find these things out. And then many people, black people, in exile, living in exile, forced out of South Africa, imprisoned in South Africa, fighting by whatever means they had against the South African apartheid regime. And there are very, very close similarities between South African apartheid and the Israeli state. The close similarity, in particular, is that they try to create a material base of support, to create allies within the Israeli population who are prepared to carry out actions that would be considered atrocities or barbarities or total injustice against the other people. I helped some Israelis to make a film a year or so ago about Karl Marx, the Jews in Israel and the Arabs in Israel. And there was an Arab guy on there, writes for a Palestinian PLO newspaper. And he said, when he was a young man, the first thing that led him to write was there used to be signs in English, in Hebrew and in Arabic where they lived. And the sign was in Hebrew, please pick up your rubbish. And the sign was in English, be polite, pick up your rubbish. And the sign was in Arabic, pick up your rubbish or you'll be punished. Right? So in other words, this same method of distinction between the treatment of the Palestinian people and the Arabic people by Israel has led to these years and decades of conflict. Someone last week, I pointed this out last week again, I heard someone week before last, they're standing here, when it first happened, they were arguing. A Jewish guy was arguing with a Middle Eastern guy, and the Middle Eastern guy kept saying, one day of monstrosity against 75 years. One day against 75 years. And it was a monstrosity what happened. I don't think you'll find more than 1 in 1,000 people who wouldn't say that. I don't think you'd find that. Even in Palestine, I don't think you'd find that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet, they make out, everybody keep making out, if you support the Palestinians now, then you are somehow an ally of Hamas. What sort of madness is this? And by the way, this idea about controlling people, monitoring people, surveying people, don't forget, this was the whole agenda of the last 3 years. 2020, they started out, everyone must stay at home. So they imprisoned not just the people in Gaza, they imprisoned the people in Israel. They imprisoned the people in England, the people in France, in Germany, across the entire planet. Certain people, I said certain people again, certain people who had an interest. Big pharma, big tech, it was all the rage, wasn't it? Stay at home, study on your screen. Eventually they started out a jab program with new vaccines, mRNA vaccines. They jabbed the world. And by the way, I think one of the first countries, if not the first they jabbed, was Israel.
Israel got it well.
And they tried to force the Israelis to take it, on pain of losing their job or not leaving their home. So the Israelis themselves became guinea pigs of the Israeli state. So that's why you need to fight in order to break the power of the powerful. You don't just go some weak little layers, kill a few people, an idiotic idea. You find the strongest link and you break that link. And the strongest link is between the Israeli people and the Israeli government. You must break the Jewish people, break that power. Once you break that power from below, just as with the anti-lockdown movement in France, in Germany, in Austria, in Australia, in Canada, in America, in England, we took to the streets week in, week out, day in, day out, until the regime collapsed. So too, the people of Israel, the people of Palestine, the people of the Middle East, and around the world must rise up against their rulers. They're all interconnected. You don't think they're connected as a handful of billionaires control the world? A handful of companies control the world. And those same companies, you know, who supplies? Piers was here, I saw yesterday. He said to me, let's run a campaign on Palestine. I said, what sort of campaign? He says, boycott McDonald's. And I think that's a good point. It's a good point. McDonald's giving free food to the IDF. McDonald's got a lot of shares, I believe, owned by Israeli state or Israeli companies. Of course, you need to focus on specific targets to make it understandable to people what is happening. The same thing, I remember a friend of mine, he ran a campaign in Ireland in the 1980s. His name was Nimrod Sajaki, a South African revolutionary fighting against apartheid. He'd been in a prison cell with Nelson Mandela. And in Ireland, in Dublin, some workers at one factory, the Dunn store, refused to handle South African fruit. Refused to handle it. And then they were told they'd be sacked. So they stood outside the shop, went on strike. Suddenly they ran a campaign that cut through all the bullshit around the entire world. All around the world, they were invited to go and speak. Suddenly these ordinary workers, totally ordinary workers, became global figures campaigning for justice for the people of South Africa. So it must be in relation to the Palestinian people. And in relation, by the way, to the ordinary Jewish people in Israel. You must appeal on a class basis to unify the workers. And once you unify the workers, it all becomes clear. Who's in command? Who's controlling? Who's doing what? Who's surveying? Who's using machine? And the Americans turn around and say, we must support Israel. Straight away, knee-jerk, straight away. Everything support Israel. They sent a bloody aircraft carrier. Hamas does not have an army. They sent an aircraft, 2 aircraft carrier. And just this morning, they shot down a missile fired supposedly by Hamas or by who was the other, Hezbollah or something like that. These are the same people who wanted us locked down, imprisoned, controlled by big pharma, controlled by big tech. They are trying to grab control over the entire planet. By the way, if the Israelis do have a plan, now, what is that plan? It's to flatten Gaza and establish some sort of totalitarian system of universal surveillance over the Palestinian people. And that will then, if they get away with it, will then be rolled out all over the world. Of course they will. When they develop the technologies, then they apply them everywhere. That's what we know from the last 3-4 years. Of course, it goes back 75 years and more. Okay, any questions or contributions from the audience? Well, that's not a controversial question. That's a good thing. Who agrees? Some do. Who disagrees?
Everyone.
The beauty about it, Speaker's Corner, is, as I said earlier on, you go over there, and there's some heavy arguments. Some people swear it, some people argue, but we survive with each other okay. We're not fighting, we're not stabbing it. The police come down, there's going to be a fight at Speaker's Corner. We have to keep an eye on them, watch over them. 98% of the time we keep calm at Speaker's Corner, because only by discussion, debate, are we able to overcome these countries. Look at the people around, we're from all around the world, all different backgrounds. Unless we can get along, then the type of crisis we are seeing in Gaza will break out all around the world. So we have to act as levers to undermine that type of psychology, to link together the working class of the entire planet, of every nation, and to unify the world behind the idea of peace, freedom and plenty in harmony with the ecology. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you can. A bit late. Well, one question coming in.
It's going to be a managed to get back up there.
What?
You see the Israel flag over there?
Yeah.
Is she holding it to cause trouble? And the police are here to protect her free speech. And during lockdown, they were stopping you. They weren't protecting you.
I mean, look, it's just
do you think
one
she
of the
believes
Christians. Some of the Christians think Israel's white, Christianity's predominantly white. They think, and then they think, therefore, although she's not white. Wrong one. Some of the Christians think Christianity and Judaism are much more closely aligned than Christianity and Islam. Some of them think that, and therefore they make a big cause about that. neither here nor there. There's an Islamic guy earlier on trying to convert me to Islam. I said, well, fine. I've got a Quran at home. I just don't believe your stuff. But you're fine. You believe what you want. You know, I don't have a problem with you. People, but I've been coming to speak as quite many. Once upon a time, I used to think, oh, you need to fight against religion, and I used to get up and speak against religion. But it's not a good way to approach things. People believe in religion for various reasons. They're generally not because of some scientific study. Because they got to believe they grew up with this. It's a culture, their family, and so on. That's what the background to that generally is, in my opinion. So I don't have a problem. Someone wants to believe in their religion. Believe in your religion, but don't make out that this religion is the cause of the violence. This is land grabbing, mistreatment, barbarity, poverty, impoverishment of people. Is what's behind it. The Gazan people on $1 a day, or even less now. Barely any water, barely any food, no fuel supplies. What did they get? 12 lorries in yesterday? 20 lorries in yesterday? Yes, you can. No, you can't. Treat them like little babies. We can allow you this, we can't allow you that. No wonder barbarity breaks out in those circumstances. So, you know, when they make out, oh my God, we're so horrified, so shocked. It's a terrible thing, but don't pretend to be so shocked. Given the way in which Israel and the Western world have treated the Middle East like their playground. And by the way, many of the corrupt rulers of the Middle East are stooges of the Americans, or have been stooges of the Americans, the British, the French, and the rest of them. So the idea that these rulers of the Middle East, you know, the Saudi Arabians, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, that these countries are ruled by representatives of the people. They're representatives of America, and often in league with the Israelis, by the way, against the Arab people. So that's why you need to have a grassroots movement breaking through this, and the people in those countries are aware of this. That's the point. The Arab street is aware of these things. It's not a religious conflict, although it can appear to be. It's not even a national conflict. It's not even a conflict between Arabs and Jews. It's a conflict between the mass of the working people and the poor of the world against those in power. Thanks very much. Fine, we're done, I think. Yeah. Lovely day. Yeah.